She's the chief operating officer of a global company. She's running a foundation for underprivileged girls. And she's also just co authored a book with 14 other Filipino leaders. Most people would pick one lane. Monica Maralit is somehow doing all three at the same time. In this episode, we talk about how she makes it work, why comfort can be dangerous, and what happens when you finally say your goals out loud.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Monica. How have you been?
Oh my God, I've been good. Oh my God, I'm so excited for you, Carmen. When you messaged me, I was like, oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I would never have thought of this for you. Like, I wouldn't have thought that this would be something you would want to do. It just
I
didn't seem like your personality would do something like
It's not Monica. I'm not talkative. I'm not trained to interview. But I like to listen to people, like listening
Yeah,
to people's stories,
with
reading about
stories. Yeah.
stories. And so I thought, and I never thought in a million years it's going to be a podcast. I thought it's going to be
Yeah.
a book or something written, but
Right.
never a podcast.
Oh
So
my
this is
gosh.
totally outside of my comfort zone. But I've taken the
Super
leap. Taken the
exciting.
leap.
Yes. Super exciting. Super excited for you. Yay.
Thanks, Monica. Yep,
Oh
and
my
really
God.
when I thought of this, I want I want it to be like a very casual
Mm-hmm.
podcast conversation. I didn't
Okay.
want it to be so curated, overly
Yeah.
edited, or overly
Yeah.
prepared. I just wanted to be like a conversation that people would like to eavesdrop on.
Yeah. 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 Well, that's what it is. I mean, like, we haven't spoken in years. So this is really
Over
going to be
10
like,
years.
yeah. Oh my God. When did you leave?
I left 2016. And
Yes. Oh my God.
then, so 2016 from the Philippines to New Zealand. And
New
then
Zealand. Yes, I remember that.
last year, we said, okay, it's
Melbourne.
time for another adventure. And then off to Australia we went.
Yes. I love that. Thinking about it as an adventure. I really, yeah, it sounds, like I was talking to somebody else the other day who came from the US, who had just come from the US. And she moved from, I don't know, Canada or something like that. And she said, and she's looking at it the same way, like her family's adventure. And I was like, that's kind of a great way to look at it rather than an assignment that you're being sent someplace and you're looking at it as an assignment. That's kind of cool.
It's an
Oh my
adventure.
God.
It's
It
like it's
is.
like van life, mega van life
Hmm.
situation where
Yeah.
you bring your whole family. And
Yeah.
this time, Monica, so when we were in New Zealand, my two kids adopted stray cats. They picked up stray cats from the park.
Okay.
And one of the conditions when this opportunity in Melbourne came about, one of the conditions was for us to bring the two cats along.
Oh my
So they're
gosh.
stray cats. They're not even those
Yeah.
specially
Yeah.
hybrid ones. They're
Right.
stray cats, but their airline tickets from New Zealand to here were more expensive than ours four
Oh
combined,
my God.
especially because one had a heart condition. So the vet wouldn't sign off on one of the cats' travel tickets. And so we were saying,
Oh my
we'll
gosh.
sign a waiver. We won't blame anyone if something happens to the cat.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then no, the requirement was for us to go to a cat
That's so
cardiologist.
funny.
So there's such a
There's a
thing.
cat cardiologist. Oh
So
my
we went to a
God.
cat cardiologist,
That's
and then that cat cardiologist signed the
signed
paperwork.
off on it. Oh my gosh. That's so cute. That's so amazing. The lengths people will go to for their pets. I'm telling you.
And
It's
for the
so
kids,
funny.
for the
And
kids.
for the kids, happiness. You probably would have just left them. That's okay.
My husband was because I moved I moved first, so I was a couple of weeks ahead, and
Okay.
so my husband and my son were left
Uh-huh.
in Auckland to take care of everything else.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so yeah, my husband, out of panic, stress, was close to just
Oh.
leaving that cat with a heart problem out on the street. And I said,
Oh no,
that's
you can't even do
inhuman.
that. That's
Can't do that.
that's in yeah. He was like, yeah, because it's a cat. It's not human.
You can't do that. So
No, yeah, it's part of the family. It's part of
it's
the
part of the
family
family.
already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so cute.
she's got her little travel paper signed by the cat cardiologist, and that cat
Yeah.
cardiologist was very expensive. It's more than anything that I've spent on myself. But
You should like frame it, whatever it is, the document, just frame it and remind yourself what you can sacrifice for your child. that's,
exactly.
that's so cute. So
So
cute. I
that's
love it.
me.
Oh my God.
How about you, Monica? What have you
Oh
been
my
up to
gosh.
since
Oh
the
my
last
God, so
we
much.
spoke? There's so
Well,
much.
there's so much. There's so much, So, I mean, after I left Telecare, I went to PSG Global Solutions, and when we started that when I started with them, it was like 2009, I think, and there was like 2000, there's like 20 people in the company, and it was Brian and Vivek, them, and so since I had known them. And then Jim Frankie called me. I had been saying no for a long time when they asked me to join. Like, no, I don't want to. No, I'm okay. I'm comfortable. And that was the problem. I was comfortable
Yep.
and a little bit complacent. And to be honest, I was unhappy. But it was kind of like I'm unhappy, but I know what I'm doing. I know where I'm at. Do I really want to start over? And then Jim Frankie called, and I was like, oh my God, I love Jim Frankie. I just love him. I'll do anything for him. Okay, I'll go. so so if it wasn't for Jim Frankie, I probably would not have left. But
Maybe Vivek and Brian knew that Jim
yeah,
Frankie
they
was
do.
the
He had to bring out the big guns. So and then I joined them, and there was like 20 people in the company, and I remember the first day going into the elevator, and the elevator hardly worked. It was like one of those rickety old buildings on Jupiter, like I was like, I think it's a
the
condemned
small
building now.
buildings.
Yeah, one of those. And I was like, I wasn't sure if the elevator would open. And then, it's just, it's, when you start up, it's like nothing. But
Hmm.
then, here we are 16 years later, and, we had gone through ups and downs. But at our peak during COVID, there was probably about 4,800 people. And, it's come down since then. Most companies have come down, but it's just like this up and down. But it was something that was kind of interesting because if you thought about the way eTel was way before, you were a part of something that was growing. You were part of something that was that you were contributing to, and you could see your contribution to the company. And then later, as it got larger, you see less and less of that. But with PSG, I started to see that again. Like everything I did contributed to this bigger whole. And as we grew, it was just more and more of that. And Brian and Vivek were really great because they let me kind of make a lot of decisions on my own, and be able to implement all of these different things for the company. And I could really see what my contribution was, which was great, And when they sold the company in late 2022 to Teleperformance, now branded as TP. That was again a new chapter. I mean, that was what we were working for, to be sold, so that as shareholders and owners of the company, it's something that you built and you sell off to another company because they believe in it too. And so another adventure, a different thing that we're doing now with the TP Group, we're kind of separate from the core BPO because we're part of specialized services. So we still run kind of independently, still with overall family guidance, but still kind of independently. But that's what I did for this is what I've been doing for work, and it's good, but I think the interesting thing about it is, how do you call it? It's one of those things where there's got to be kind of more, to it. So I'd always wanted to, like open up some kind of foundation for girls, and what I could do with that, focus on education and underprivileged girls, and because I've been a lot in different kind of different organizations that had to do with women empowerment. I was speaking a lot also. I was invited to speak to, these different events. And, I really liked it because, in college, I had really wanted to be in communications, and I wanted to be, in broadcasting and all of that. And then, later on I was like, no, but it was kind of interesting that I would be at these events and I was speaking. It was so natural, it seemed so natural for me to be up there. And it was, I got better at it. And then, um, since, they sold the company, I got, a big bonus. And so I thought this is a great time to just give back, because I've gotten so much, and I worked, for all of this, but now I can kind of give back. And so I decided to open up the foundation, and it's called the Victoria Heartstrong Organization, and we focus on underprivileged girls in high school and college, and and we support them through financial means, and then all of these other, different programs. But that's what I decided to do. The other thing that I never thought I would do was write a book. So, I wrote. Just jump in whenever you want to. I'm just going to keep talking. I had gone to an industry conference, and this was kind of like towards the end of kind of COVID. And when I was able to travel, I was in the U.S. I went to a conference, and part of the conference was these women were launching their book. So they kind of explained that during COVID, they were part of a kind of a book club, but they lived in all different places. So they would get together on Zoom and they'd talk about the book, and then they, eventually would talk about some of the challenges and struggles that they were having during COVID, and it became a kind of a haven for them to support each other when they were struggling with, whether it was with their kids, or with just family life, or work even, during that time. And so they all decided, okay, well, you know what, we should share what we're learning from each other and how we're supporting each other. So they decided to write a book. And so when I was at the conference, I was like reading it and I was listening to them speak about it, and I was like, we can do this in the Philippines. I mean, we have so many wonderful women who have great stories that would, uplift and benefit everybody. So I went home. I decided I'm going to write the book. I'm just going to get together, and I called up Glory. You remember Glory, right? And Glory Seacom, and I said, hey, I want to do this, and she's like, oh, great, let's do it. And then 6 months went by and we did nothing. and then and then I went to another conference, and I had talked about, somebody had asked a question, and then I had mentioned it to another woman who was an author of the first book, and I said, "How did you get started?" Because I had no idea how to get started. Like, how do you find a publisher who funds it? How do you get it out there? And so I talked to a woman, one of the authors that was at this same conference, and I asked her questions. She hooked me up with their publisher, who was also at the conference, and then she was a speaker, and then she said out loud in front of everybody, as she was speaking, there's a woman here in the audience, and she has also decided to write a book, and it's going to be soon. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God. She's saying it out loud. No,
Announcing it.
I don't even have like anything, and she's announced it already. And I thought, oh gosh, so this is what it takes for somebody to say it out loud in order for you to do it. First it's me saying it out loud, and then somebody taking it and then taking it forward, and then it kind of forces you to do it because she said it in front of 250 people. Now I'm, obligated. I'm kind of obligated to do this, but it was a great push. And so when I got back, went through my network. I tried to get, all of these women, and some of these women I don't even know, but yeah, we got together, and finally, a year later, we launched the book, and these women are wonderful. IE is one of them.
He's one of
She's
them. I saw
great.
the book. Yep, that's fair.
Yeah, yeah.
Gosh, Monica, and I totally resonate. Being comfortable and complacent. That's how I've
Mm-mm.
been at
Mm-hmm.
ETEL and all the other companies I've worked with, and that's why I spent over between 5 to 12 years in one company, because you get to
Mm-mm.
be very comfortable and complacent, and then something
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
happens that rocks
Shakes you.
rocks the
Yeah.
boat.
Yeah.
and you say, okay, there should be something more, and then you jump in and take that adventure. And
Yeah.
I also and doing something totally unexpected of you, like me in this podcast, and you said you and
Yeah.
your book. It's
Yeah.
totally unexpected, totally out
Yeah.
of your comfort zone. And
Right.
also it's somebody who announced it and put
Yes.
it out in that world that really pushed you and propelled you to do it. Because in
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
case, I had this like in the little bookshelf at the back of all the
Mm-hmm.
books. And but
Mm-mm.
until somebody told me just put out your first trailer. And it's only when I did that that I felt obligated that it's out there in the
Yes.
world. I'm obligated to follow through. People were
Yeah.
also telling me, oh, ideally you should have 6 sessions already done before you publish. But then I said, no,
Right.
I'm just going to do it. I'm a one marshmallow person. I'll just
Yeah.
do it.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's out
Yeah.
there in the world. I'm not as
Yeah.
prepared. Again, I'm not trained. But then, yeah, you just got to jump
You
in
just
and
do it. Jump in and
do
do
it.
it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's how I felt about the book. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just going to keep going and but I found people who were interested in it. All of them said, "I've never written a book before." And I said, "Neither have I. Let's just do it together. Let's just all do it together. We'll all learn something, if
Oh
nothing
my
else."
gosh. And I think, Monica, growing growing older makes you more
Mhm.
courageous, right?
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah. It does
Like all
because
the
if you look,
you still have your
of
insecurities, but then
course.
sometimes you
Yeah.
just I don't care anymore. I'll just do it.
Yeah. I'm just going to do whatever I want. Yeah, exactly. And, I thought about that. It's like, oh, is that why old people don't care what they say to anybody anymore? This is what it feels like.
But you know what, Monica? Now that I've had this podcast, I honestly don't. I honestly feel younger. Like I feel
Okay.
excited
Yeah.
so I still have my 9 to 5 job, which I
Yeah.
love.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
then I look forward to having these conversations, or I look forward to going home and writing up all of my ideas and who to
Yeah.
reach out to and what to
Mm-mm.
talk about with them. Like
Right.
it's
Right.
so exciting, it's invigorating, and
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't feel like almost half a century old. Like I
Oh my
feel
God. Yeah.
young. Like I'm
Yeah.
starting a
Yeah. Yeah.
little
Yeah.
thing again.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how I feel too, because you have your regular job, and that's fulfilling in itself because it's a career, you built it and all of that. But then when you have something that's completely separate and it's a part of you, and somebody else pointed this out to me too, it's like a creative outlet, like all of this creativity that you had in you, you're putting into something else. And so that book was for me, the foundation is for me. Whereas work is work. It's not necessarily boring or a chore or whatever, but it's just you've been doing it for years, and so it just becomes part of your regular thing. But this one is like, oh, you have to be creative about it, and you have to really think about something that you've never done before. And I think that's one thing that I've really learned as well is just, one, jump and just do it, because, you never know what's going to happen, and you don't know where it's going to take you. And regardless of where it takes you, you went on a journey and you can learn something from it. And I think that's kind of the thing I take away from it, and just doing the book, and your mind starts to go like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And it's also a lot of work. The foundation or the organization is a lot of work. And people always ask me, because I still do night shifts, right? I'm working night shifts, but then, I do some days at crossover and all of that. Like, how do you get through it all? How do you do this? But when you love it, and you always hear this, when you love it, it doesn't feel like a burden. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's real work. So when I'm doing something for the girls, I'm coming up with a program, I'm reaching out, I'm trying to find donors, I'm trying to create programs, or trying to get people to do a program. There's a lot of begging when you open up a foundation. But it doesn't feel like real work and doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a sacrifice, though I'm sure I am to an extent, sacrificing something for sure, sleep for one, but it just doesn't feel like it, and it's just so fulfilling also to see the girls and to see the change in them. And it feels like it's kind of worth it.
Yeah. So how did it come about, Monica? And
Mm-hmm.
why Victoria Heartstrong? Of
Mm-hmm.
all the things that you could contribute your time and your talent on, why did you
Mm-hmm.
choose
This.
Victoria Heartstrong? And what's the
Okay.
story behind the name?
Yeah. So Victoria Heartstrong. The reason why I came up with it was Victoria is my middle name. So it's my mother's maiden name. It's my grandmother's married name, and because both of them were just such strong influences in my life, and they were such strong women who really believed in education, and that's what I wanted to focus on. And they themselves were just kind of beyond their time. I decided to name it Victoria, and it's kind of a legacy for us. And then Heartstrong, I thought because of also them, because despite all of the struggles and challenges that they've had in their lives, they have been resilient. They have had grit. They've had to endure so many things, but still kind of wrapped up in compassion. And so I thought, you've got to have a strong heart in order to do that. So I thought Victoria Heartstrong. And because, I was so interested in women and, raising up the next generation of leaders, I thought, well, this would be a great way to do that. So I, founded Victoria Heartstrong Organization. I was going to focus on women. Or I was going to focus on young girls and making sure that they had a great education because, my mom and my grandmother, they really believed that if women had an education, that was freedom. And when you really think about it, it does give them some sort of freedom. My grandmother, she actually didn't even finish. I don't think she even finished fifth grade. So she never, went on to high school and all of that. But she had an entrepreneurial spirit, and she had, I'm going to go to Manila with my family, with my husband, and we're going to build a life there. And you know, my mom is kind of also the same way. She in the 70s, she had gotten married, and then she moved to the U.S. Never been on a plane, never been any other outside of the country. But to think that somebody like my grandmother, who didn't have a lot of money, didn't finish fifth grade, but was able to send all of her kids to college and had some foresight of what could happen if you gave them an education and you ship them off somewhere, you ship them to another
Yeah.
country, um, they would flourish, and that's what happened. But that was the reason why I focused on that. And then it so happened that as I opened it up and I thought, okay, great, I'm going to open up a foundation. I want it to be legit, and so I'll just find some girls, I'll give them money, and that'll be it. My uncle, who went to a church in Valenzuela, at the Valenzuela United Methodist Church, he said, you know what, our church is looking for, we want to open up something for education. And, so he heard about me opening this up, and he said, why don't you come and talk to the pastor? And so I met with the pastor, and so we built kind of a program. So he would find the girls in the community in Valenzuela. And so I thought, okay, great. I can fund 5 girls. That's it. Because I wasn't sure how this was going to go, but I would give them an allowance. And so when I went, so they found girls, and they interviewed them. There's about 7 of them. And I said, okay, I'll choose 5. So let's go and let's go talk to them. So when I started to speak to them, I, was asking questions. So, what's your family life like? What does your dad do? What does your mom do? Et cetera. You could tell that they didn't have great financial means because they're most of the moms did not work, or they did little odd jobs, do laundry, come to somebody's house. But they also had a bunch of siblings to that were part of the family, and their dad might have been like a Grab driver, or a baker. And I, specifically asked them what is their monthly income, household income. And I couldn't, I was like, oh gosh, that's how much I spend on dinner. I'm, and I was like, how do they stretch that for the whole month with a family of five? I just, it was really kind of like, oh, it's eye opening. And then I asked them about school, what did they want to do? Um, what were their, what were their ambitions? I asked them, what, if you had, you could do it and you can go to any school anywhere, what school would you go to? Like it was your choice wherever you want to go. So, I was expecting for them to say, that kind of some of our top tiers, Ateneo, UP, or LaSalle. And the girl said, I would go to PLV, which Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Valenzuela, which is the state university in Valenzuela. And I was like, why would you choose that school? Why would you go there? Because, I mean, it's just within your same community. I mean, I gave you anything, any choice.
Mm.
And she said, and no, this was all in Filipino, and I had like a
Mm.
translator also. So she
Opo.
said, she's, I know,
Oh.
I know. She said, well, it really depends on my parents' budget. And I thought, oh my gosh. So even your dreams have a budget. And then I
Mm.
realized, okay, they need more than just money or an allowance every month. They need to be able to see something outside of Valenzuela, outside of their community, something that they could be or uh, strive that is within their reach. It is if they just could see it and they kind of work for it. And so I decided that beyond just the allowance that I would give every month, or we would give every month, we would create programs for them. So it could be kind of educational programs like things like art, or it could be financial wellness. How do you save? What's the first step? How do you stay on a budget? It would be on women's health. Like how do you take care of your health? How do you identify? Maybe a lump in your breast or something like that, and exposure trips to be able to show them what other companies are like if you went to a company that's in Makati or BGC, what would it look like there, and could they could, so that they can imagine themselves there, and that this is something that they could actually do. And so that's what we did. And, one of the first things that we had done after the first year was we took them to the National Museum. And there are three national museums, right? And we took them to two. And the last one we weren't able to go to. We ran out of time. It was the art museum. But when we first walked in, we had a tour guide and everything. And have you ever been there? Oh my God, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful
Oh,
museum.
I don't think I
It's
have.
actually really it was the first time I went too. And we first walked in and, they were super quiet. And, I was thinking, oh gosh, maybe this is boring for them because they're kids, they're in college, maybe a museum isn't that fun. But then later on, I realized, kind of letting them roam around, they were more in awe that they were there and that they could see this. And then um, it later, later on, I had asked them, what did you think? And then what other programs are you interested in? And they were interested in going back to a museum, and they wanted to go to like an art museum because they were a little bit disappointed, I think, that we weren't able to go to the art museum, but they want to go to an art museum. And I was like, oh my gosh, just those little things that you and I, wherever we travel, we probably go to a museum. For
Hmm.
them, this was like the first time
It's
they've ever
something
seen
new,
one.
first time.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's been great to be able to, open up their eyes to be able to see something different, to see them try to achieve something kind of outside of what they normally would have had we not been able to give them that opportunity. So, campus tours are going to be another one that we do. We're going to go to Ateneo, to the
Yep.
art gallery in Ateneo, and then give them a
Oh
tour
yeah.
also.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's how it came about.
And it's sounding like even when you started Victoria Heartstrong, though you had a vision for it, there were no there's a lot of iterations and changes
Oh
and
my God.
moving
Yes.
pieces. to
Yeah,
it.
yeah, 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 for sure.
How did you build it, Monica? Because it sounds
Yeah,
a little bit too daunting from my perspective, doing
yeah,
it
yeah,
after graveyard shift and
right.
all of the thinking, all of the thought processes, all of the people you needed to meet. How
Yeah,
did it
yeah,
all come about?
yeah. I definitely underestimated. I definitely underestimated the work that would go into this. And so I first spoke to one of my mom's and my grandfather or my grandmother's one of her best friends who was still alive, and he happened to be working at he used to be an engineer working for the Ayala companies, and his name is Mar Castilian, and he said that he would give money to scholars, and so I thought, okay, maybe I can talk to him and see how he did that, and he told me a little bit about it. He said, and it's for him, it was just he didn't have a foundation or organization. He would just give to PUP. So PUP would find the scholars and he would give to them. And then I did a little bit more and I wanted to make sure that, again, that the foundation was legit. So I found out that you need to register like a business. So I thought, okay, how do I register? What a Google,
Yeah,
ChatGPT, how do you
yeah.
register? So I decided to, okay, so I decided to go to ask some people at the office who might be able to help me. So I asked, how do you register a company? I spoke to the head of our finance at that time. I asked him, and he gave me some ideas on how to do that. And so I ended up going to kind of a law firm to help me. So I kind of looked up online how to register, who can help. And so there was a law firm that kind of specializes in um, putting up foundations because there are a lot of expats and a lot of people who want to do similar things. And so I employed them, I have them on retainer and everything, and they helped me through everything. So they helped me through the registration, they gave me the documents, they asked me for lots of different documents and questions and all of these kind of things. And then it started to, everything was like, okay, now you need this one, and you need this one, and you need this one, and you need so many things to. And I was like, oh my gosh,
What did I
there's a
get
lot of
myself
like, I
into?
know, what did I now I'm too deep into it that I can't get out. But so I went through that process with them, and finally had gotten it registered and everything. And once I got it registered, I opened up a bank account that's specific for that. And then Brian Cotter actually told me, hey, you know what? If in order for you to get U.S. donations, you can go to this organization and they can help you set it up for U.S. donations because they get tax credits when they donate. And so I signed up with Myriad. .org, and they hooked me up with as well. And so now it's kind of all come together that I have I have that platform. I have the I have the bank account that's specific to the organization. I have the business license. I have all of these kind of things, and still, but every year you have to renew, you have to give all these financial statements. And so, but I do get lots of help from the lawyers, a lot of that. And this year, we I hired our first employee. I was able to hire our first employee because we got donations enough for me to actually have employees. So I have one part time and one full time. And you know who it is? Do you remember Adiel
Yeah, of
Santos
course.
and
Yeah,
VJ Bonifacio? It's their
yeah.
daughter.
Oh my
Pilar
goodness.
is
Pilar,
my
yes.
yeah, yeah, she just graduated from Ateneo and she's the first
Employee number
employee,
one.
yes, employee number one. And she got her best friend to join, and she's part-time because she's still studying. But yeah, Ali and Pilar, so yeah, they just started. And so it's a whole thing. It's been great having them because they can do a lot of the coordination and all of that, so it's been good.
And
Yeah, so that
and you're now focusing on really the strategy and
yes.
driving
Hmm.
the business instead of the the
Yeah, yeah,
detail
yeah.
work.
And but you know, before they came, it was interesting because you know so many people would still do a lot of volunteering for me. Like one of my friends, Frankie Ramirez, she has been awesome because she has been coordinating all of these different events in order for us to get awareness and get donors because we sell the book. I do talks, we get support, and they companies will offer programs. Glory Seacom also, she does programs. Well, she kind of builds programs like because she's a trainer, so she does
Mhm.
trainings as well. Vina, if you remember Vina Vidal Vicente, she she was also part of COM in our
Hmm.
batch, and she is a train. She owns a training company, and so she does trainings for us as well. So I've gotten a lot of support also from all of these other women, and not just women, but you know, from others as well, who just give their time. You know, Russell Dale Campos, he's the head of our HR. He also gives me advice on, you know, all different things, and he has a great story too because he also came from very limited means and has you know come up, and he actually lives in Australia too.
What's
Oh,
what's his name?
Russell Dio Campo. Oh, I wonder if he does he live in Melbourne? I think he might live in
Mhm.
Melbourne. I'll find out.
Okay,
But yeah,
find out.
he's, yeah.
That's your
But
homework, Monica.
yeah, I'll find out. Yeah. So for I've been very fortunate that I've gotten a lot of support from friends who feel also just they're inspired and they're compelled, and it kind of brings them forward. My family also have been really supportive as well, and so it was not alone. To be fair, I didn't do this alone. There was no way I could have done this by myself without you know without them supporting me and helping me. And you know, a lot of times I don't even ask, and they're just like, "Hey, let's do this and let's do that," and I'm like, "Okay." The women, even from the book, the authors of the book, some of these women have their own advocacies, and they have their own organizations that they're a part of. And they also, you know, help out as well. They come and they speak. And so just in case you need more people on your podcast, these women are
Yep,
great
yep,
too. Yeah.
yep,
So great. But
definitely.
yeah.
So your five girls in your organization, are they now still in college, or are they still studying, or have they
Yeah. So
graduated?
actually, the five girls, it turned out, you know, after I interviewed the seven, I couldn't say no to them, so I ended up
Yeah.
getting all of them, of course. Like, how can I say? I'm like,
Oh,
when
how
they're
can you
telling me
say
their story,
no? Yeah.
I know. When they were telling me their story, I'm like crying, you know. I'm like, I was like trying to hold myself together, but I was like, oh my god.
Mhm.
So I got all seven of them, and then Russell told me later, you know what? You can't do interviews anymore. You know, you have to be objective. I was like, I can't do it. So, you know, two more batches. So I've done two more batches and I now have 30 girls. So
My
30
goodness.
girls are a part of this now. Two of them have graduated from college. They just graduated this school year. And so they're off into the world. But we'll
Yep.
still, you know, they still support them and you know, whenever they want to come back and contribute to, they can. And then now we have you know, some new girls. I think we had four girls that graduated from high school, so they go on to college, and then we still have some girls who are going through college. And I think this year, I think there's about seven or eight of them that are in fourth year college, their last year of college. So a lot of them are again going to graduate from college, and we've already synced up with some of these companies to help them with internships and paid internships too. I was like, oh, that's amazing. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, it's been good. So my goal is to get to 60 total scholars in 1 year. And then I will see whether or not if I can sustain that, because you kind of have to, you know, after you look at it, like, okay, can I keep going? Can I sustain this? Do I have enough, you know, funds and donors coming in on a
Mhm.
regular basis to be able to sustain 60, or can I do more? But yeah, the goal is first to get to 60 in 5 years. So I've got 30, I'm halfway there. And I've got, you know, another, what is it, another 3 years? Yeah, to get to my fifth year. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But if you haven't been the one interviewing the first seven girls, you wouldn't have realized how else you can build Victoria Heartstrong. That it's not
Hmm.
just the funds for tuition, but also the
Yeah.
exposure that
Yeah.
they need
Hmm.
to see what else is
Hmm.
out there in the world and what
Yeah.
opportunities are open to
Yeah.
them.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's really the key. And it's, if you, it's just like work too, I mean, you have to get down to that one unit level. If you could think about it as a production, it's like units, but really it's the people. You really have to talk to people. You have to listen to them. You have to kind of hear their stories and what they might need or what they might be looking for. And it's very similar at work too. You can't be, always just in your room strategizing and coming up with all these things without understanding what's really needed,
Mm.
whether it's in the market, from your customers, or it's your employees. And it's kind of the same way. So I will probably never not be part of the interviewing. I may be like listening in, but probably not the ultimate like final decision maker, because then I would take everybody. But yeah, you still have to be super involved. And today, we did, and back in the BPO, you have like skip levels or you have like a mid-year assessment. I
Right.
do that too. So I will have one-on-ones with them, or I'll have group sessions or focus groups, and kind of check in where they are, what do they want to do, and what have they learned, and what's not working. So I still do that as well, just so that I know what we're working for.
Yeah, and how to better it, make the organization
Yeah,
better
yeah,
for
yeah.
everyone.
Yeah.
Wow. And tell me about the book, Monica. How did you
Mm-hmm.
think of the concept and how did you choose the women
The
to
women
include
there.
in your book? I'm sure
Yeah.
that's a very difficult task
Yeah.
back then.
Yeah. It kind of was, yeah. So interestingly, so the concept was very similar to the book of the women in the U.S. who had written "Together We Rise." So the book is called "Together We Rise," and I thought, okay, we can do that too. I'll find 14 other women besides myself. Would be 15 total authors. We'll tell a chapter. We'll write a chapter about us, about anything that we want to, about our life story. It could be about our life story. It could be like something else. And so when I came back, I started to get to my network. You start to talk to people and kind of reach out and see how do you do this and how do you find people. So one thing was to go within my network. That's why IE was there.
Mhm.
And then I thought of Karen Bakal because she was also big in the BPO. And so I hooked me up with Karen. Karen hooked me up with somebody else. And so every time I talked about it, somebody would go, hey, what about this person? Oh, you should talk to this person. Oh, you should talk to this person. And one of the things I also did was um, there's an awards body, Asia CEO awards that happens every year, and it's for all companies. And there was one category that was, I believe, like the young women leader of the year, and they had 10 finalists or something like that, part of the circle of excellence. And so I looked at them and I like, okay, I don't know anybody here. I looked at that. I researched them. I found out what they were all about and why, they were a part of this circle of excellence and finalists for this award. And then I reached out to each one of them. LinkedIn, I Googled them and found out what organization they were a part of. And I tried to, sometimes, you know what I do? I try to figure out their email address based on the email address that was published. And then I figured out, oh, so it's
First
their
name dot last name.
yes, yeah, first name dot last name, first initial last name, and then I would do that. Or I would leave a message. Or I would leave a message on that the organization's website. I'm looking for this person and whatever. So any means that I could, and I would research some of them. Any means that I could to try to reach out to get to them. And I was fortunate enough that, like half of them had reached out to me, or half of them had responded. And, when I got a chance to talk to them about the book itself and what I was using the book for, which, was to fund the Victoria Heartstrong Organization, they were obviously, really into it and super happy. But all of them were like, I've never written a book. I've never done this before. And I was like, neither have I. Let's just do it. But most of it was just, being able to talk to somebody who is going to lead you to somebody else, it's going to lead you to somebody else, it's going to lead you to somebody else. And so that's how I was able to kind of get everybody all together. And when we were thinking through, I would just basically tell them, just talk about what you're passionate about. What is it that you're passionate about that you might think that somebody would want to know about? Or talk about your story, because somehow, in some ways, your story is going to inspire somebody. You just don't know. You don't know that your own life, as simple as you think your life is, or you're just an ordinary person, there are things that have happened in your life that would inspire somebody else, that might spark something in somebody else. And so that's how they kind of, did it together. And, so even now, we some of us will get together and, have brunch or lunch, and then we would just talk. And we would just kind of, so it's like I created like a little community. And the title, I was kind of going through it. I was thinking, how would I, how would we be able to do something? And I thought, I wanted something with a Sheroes to it. And, I wanted, something else. And so Gloria and I were going back and forth about what should the title be. And so we had all these iterations, and we finally landed on Becoming Sheroes, because, we're all becoming. It's kind of like never ending. You're constantly evolving, and you become kind of a shero, or like a shero to your community, whether it's your family, it's your kind of community outside of that, or if it could be even something larger. But to someone somewhere, you are their shero. And so these authors are, some of them are young, some of them are like in their mid 20s, late 20s, to Glory's mom, Pauline Seacom, who is more mature, and she's more experienced. But she has a great story about how she was a journalist during the Marcos era. And she was asked by Amy Marcos to interview her dad, which she obviously was against the Marcos regime at that time. And as a journalist, she had to be objective. And so she talks a little bit about how she had to write that, and that kind of the internal struggle she had in order to do it. So it's very interesting, all of their stories. And some of the authors had said, after they had written it and then they read it later when we launched, like a year later, they feel like they're a different person, because who they were when they wrote it is different from who they are today. And it's kind of like an evolution of them. So that's how we came up with Becoming Sheroes. And I call the group and the authors and all of that Filipina Sheroes. And so I've even trademarked it. I trademarked Filipina Sheroes. So that it's like, I could
Yay.
keep it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's how it came about, and that's what was the kind of inspiration. And but it's very interesting. As I've learned that if you just obviously just say it out loud, and somebody else will show interest and believe in you and say it out loud, so then you're compelled to actually do it. If you talk about it even more, there are people who are going to be inspired by you, and they're going to connect you with more and more people who are also kind of the same way. And then you find people who are somewhat like-minded, right? And then there are always people who want to help. Those are the kind of things that I learned through this, this process. And so it's really just putting yourself out there, and then finding out that it comes back to you in ways that you just would never have thought or ever realized. So
Monica.
that's it.
It's something that I know will apply to my little podcast, my little passion project,
Yes.
Monica.
Mm-mm.
When it's only when I spoke the word out loud did it
Mm-hmm.
start becoming real, and it
Yeah.
started becoming tangible. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I
Mm-hmm.
put the first trailer out, it's like an announcement to the world, and I'm committed to do it. Like I
Yeah.
need to follow
Yeah.
through. Yeah, it's yeah. I just wanted to follow through once I had it out in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Monica, what's next? It sounds like it's a full plate for you, but what's next? What do you think is next for Monica?
Oh gosh. Well, Yeah, it's so funny. I was thinking about this too a few months ago, and people always ask me, do you want to do another book? Are you going to do a second version? I was like, oh my god, it was so much work. It was so much work the first time, and I'm not actually, honestly, I'm not opposed to it. I'm thinking, maybe I do a second, kind of a second book. Maybe it may not necessarily be just here in the Philippines, but I can do it in other places because I could find people in Thailand. Because I spent a lot of time there, living in Bangkok, and I still know people who are there. My brother is now living in Chiang Mai, so that could be something that I could do. But I think I will continue to do the foundation. I've still got that goal to get to 60 scholars, and I want to be able to kind of enrich the programs and really be able to bring the girls opportunities and access, because part of it is you open up the opportunities, they have to have access to different things. And there's potentially scholarships that they can go to different schools. Right now they all go to their state universities, mostly in Valenzuela. Some of them are in some other places, but mostly it's going to be there. But if it's something that they wanted to do, I was just reading earlier today about programs where they can get a visa to work to study in the U.S. And it's like super easy. You just apply for it, and it's a lot easier to go there with the intent that you're going to train. You're going to train, or you're going to be trained, and then you come back. Those are like the big ideas that potentially I could focus on for the girls. I'm super happy now that I have Ali and Pilar, because they can do a lot of the kind of coordination and building, coordinating with the scholars and the donor companies and donor organizations. And one of the things I was also talking about was building our website a little bit more, so that we can reach out and build more of a community, and having one page potentially that is different stories as well. We would find other women who would want to build their stories and put it there as well, and then that potentially is a feed into another book, that kind of thing. But yeah, it's and Ali is doing a lot of our social media. So she's been doing videos of the girls kind of talking about what they've learned, what they want to do. And I was like, oh my God, we can do a whole video series of what's happening with them. Um, so there's a ton of things that kind of revolve around the organization, around the community, that's this women's community that's we're building together around the Filipina Sheroes, that I want to kind of continue. But the other thing that I've really started to realize that I'd love to do is I do love to actually speak, and go out and speak about things that I'm interested in and passionate about. Um, Earlier this week, I wasn't intending to speak, but I was at a conference and I was only supposed to facilitate a panel. And that's what I was told I was going to do. So I had questions for the panel, I was ready. But when the MC was calling me up, he was introducing me as a speaker and that I was going to speak on something. And I was like, what? And I looked over to Frankie like, oh my God, I'm not ready for this. But I go up, and I do actually end up giving a whole talk about something that we're building in the at work, about an AI platform that we are working on, that follows an employee through their employee journey from hiring all the way to offboarding when they resign from a company. There's AIs that build, and I was like, oh my God, I could pull that out of my hat, and I was able to talk about it. um, and Gloria and I have talked about, potentially doing something together. And April, if you remember April de
Yeah.
Jesus,
Mhm.
potentially doing some kind of training, kind of like training or speaking engagement type of company, because Gloria loves to do that. She does it right now for her company, but something that would be kind of uh, geared towards something that she might also want to build a program for herself and be able to do that. And I said, and she says she's a little bit afraid to do it because she's not on the business side, and neither is April. And I said, don't worry, I got you. I got the business
I got
side.
your back.
You guys, I got you. You guys do the creatives. I'll do the business side. Don't worry. I will find you clients also. Don't worry about that. And I know how to open up a business through and get it SEC registered.
And you've got lawyers.
I've got lawyers. I got you, girls. Yeah. So yeah. So those are kind of the things I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, yeah. And if you were going to look back, Monica,
Mm-mm.
maybe would you looking back, Monica, would you have thought about you doing all of this if you were going to talk to yourself back in university?
Mm.
What would you tell university aged Monica?
Yeah, for sure. It would not have been to work for a multinational company. That was not ever in my mind that I would ever work for a company this large or ever get to the position that I'm in now. I never thought that I would do something like that. In college, I was in communication arts. I was focused on, broadcasting, and I was focused on following Oprah's path of being Oprah, be a reporter first and then be an anchor and then I'll have my own talk show. That was what my mind was, and that was what I wanted to do, be the Asian Oprah. That was what I wanted to do. And so if I look back at myself and I told her, you know what, Monica, no, you are going to be the chief operating officer for a large multinational company. Well, you will oversee 4,000 people in the Philippines, in India, the US, and Colombia. I would have been like, ew, that's gross. That sounds really, really boring. If somebody told me, if I told myself, you know what, Monica, in the future, you are going to write a book. It's going to be called Becoming Sheroes. And I'd be like, I don't think so. I don't write real good. I'm not good in grammar. I'm better speaking, And no, one day, Monica, you are going to have a foundation. And it's going to be called Victoria Heartstrong Organization. And you're going to have 60 scholars that you're going to support. I'd be like, yeah, okay, that sounds okay. Sounds, that sounds in line with our Ateneo Magis kind of
Yeah,
situation,
yeah.
but it's not really something I thought about, but not a bad idea. Yeah, wouldn't know what to do. I would never have thought, I would do that. But there are some things that are somewhat core to you. And one of the things that was core to me, and you can read this in my chapter in the book as well, one thing that was always core to me is that I always wanted to help people. So every career or job that I was interested in was always geared towards helping other people. Um, and so if I talk to myself in college and go, you know what, Monica, you're going to be in an area or you're going to be in a place where you could help others and help them kind of propel their lives or help them live their dreams. I'd be like, yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds about right. And yeah, I think
And
that,
that's your lion there. That's your
yes,
intention. That's your
exactly.
purpose all
That's my
these years,
purpose.
Monica.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that the core of something that is what your purpose is, you may not have realized at a certain point in your life, but it will come out. It will, come out if you allow it to and you're open to it, regardless of different things that you've chosen, different paths that you might have chosen. But the core of what motivates you, what fuels you, what passion that you have inside you, and what purpose, what meaning, it's going to be there. It's going to be there. I had always thought that I'd have a family and have children, and that's how my legacy would be. And that didn't happen, which is fine. But it's still kind of coming out, whether it's with my family and my nieces, my nephews, or it's through the organization, or it's through employees also that are in my company, people that I work with. The core of who I am, what I believe in, what fuels me, what's my passion, what's my purpose, what's my meaning. It's all there, and it's always been there. So,
It's always been
and
there,
yeah,
but how it shows
yeah,
can be different in different
that's right. Yeah.
phases of life.
And like you said, you're a lot more courageous now that, you're older and you can kind of jump, right? You can jump in and say, you know what, what's the worst that can happen? Somebody says no. Okay, go someplace else. keep going, so what? Yeah. So, but like like you said, I mean, I turned 50 this year, and I'm like, I'm going to tell whoever what my age is, because I don't want to, I want people to know that this is what you can do when you are older, when you're 50. You know, that's not something to be afraid of.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Monica, ha- being 50 or becoming 50, it really emboldened me to do more. It
Hmm.
emboldened me to get out of my comfort zone and do
Hmm.
something different, like
Yes.
this podcast.
I know. I'm so happy for you. I'm so proud of you.
Oh my God.
It's really very interesting. Like, I would never have thought that this is something that you would do.
And I'm open to learning, I'm open to
Oh,
feedback. So I know this
good.
will evolve maybe 3 years or 5 years from now when I look back and see the earlier episodes.
And you know, you
It'll
could end
be
up writing a book also with all of the stories that you have here. You could end up writing a book.
oh my
Yeah.
gosh, Monica. Well, thank you, Monica. I think you've been very
Hmm.
generous with your time and with your story. You've gone you just ended your graveyard shift, so I know it's been a long day
It's
for you,
fine.
but I really appreciate your
No,
time
I
here.
have enjoyed. I was looking forward to it, honestly, and just so thrilled when you messaged. And I was like, "Oh my god, this is so exciting!" And so I'm so happy. I'm so happy.